What's up, you guys? It's your boy Miguel giving you your daily dose of radiation. In today's video, how much money do you make as an X-ray tech? So, once again, like any other field, depending on how many letters you have behind your credentials of the X-ray tech, you can negotiate more money. Two, depending on the level of, like, let's say you work at the hospital. Depending on what level of trauma you work at. So for instance, I work 3, there's 2, there's 1. Obviously, an X-ray tech who works at trauma 1 will get paid more than me who works at trauma 3, because mainly the size of the hospital and the workflow and the stuff you got to put up with. So more money, more problems. That's kind of why they're paying you more money. And then also your experience, and then you could probably get paid more if you've already been like working at the hospital, maybe not as a tech, as whatever other stuff. You may get slightly more money because you already know the setup and how everything goes type deal. You could probably be in a position to make more money that way. So let me give you, I'll just be blunt and open, honest. The pay range in my field is it's the variable. I've been open to, from what I've seen on average, like in a local average Joe place, I would say I could probably, like, just like for instance, like in the range between $20 to $30, 20 to 30, within that. I would say the average, like 9 to 5 type, like little window for the average American. Now, my eyes have been open to another tech that I work with who came from Florida. They're starting fresh out of school, $16 an hour. That blew my mind. That someone could be working this field making what you can make at McDonald's. And I'm like, that is wild. That is wild. And then there's other people here, and like if you go down to Dallas, you could be making between 35 all the way to 40 as an X-ray tech. But once again, most places that pay more money usually is because the cost of living is more. Like, for instance, if you go work with you go to California, yeah, they're going to be making $50 an hour or even $60 an hour. But your cost of living is so high. So it's like, are you really making that much money? Because, yeah, you'll say you'll net like the 100,000s, but your cost of living is so high, it kind of, balances it out type deal. So that's something to keep in mind. And then once again, depending on the shifts, your shift diffs, that can vary your money. Like, for instance, I think it's like $2 to $3, depending if you're like the mid shift or the after or the graveyard shift. And then if you work weekends at a hospital, you get paid more. And then if you're on call, there's more money to be made on that. And depending, like if you had clinicals at, let's say, where you're trying to go work at, you could maybe, when you're negotiating with HR, because they're the ones you actually negotiate the money. Your bosses can tell you one thing, but it's actually the people in the HR that will kind of determine your pay, which was mind-blowing when I discovered that, because my manager was kind of hyping us up saying, oh, you're going to make blank amount of money, and then HR's like a lowball so bad. If there's one thing for anyone who's new, whatever they offer you, ask for more. Always ask for more. Because they trying to lowball you every single time. I'll keep it real with you. I was in my head, what my manager told me, I was thinking I was going to make at least $26 to $28 an hour. That's kind of, in my mind, what I thought the pay was going to be. Because like, oh yeah, they're like, you're going to be making close to what PRN pays. And I was like, okay, PRN pays $30 an hour. That's like their standard, doesn't matter what, $30 an hour. So I was like, okay, if I'm making close to that, in your brain, you're like, oh, that's maybe like $1 or $2 or $3, whatever, 27, whatever. And then I get there and I apply, and then they're like, oh, the best we could do is $20 an hour. And I was like, what? What do you mean $20 an hour? I was talking, no. And they're like, yeah, but we did it. And I was like, nah, I'm not going to do it for 20. And the key thing is they were desperate for people. Like, they needed, like, and I was like, look, I want to make blank amount. I think it was like, I asked for 28, and they're like, the bull the HR people be doing, and then they'll come back with a proposal. The best we can do is, and they always be stingy with it, like the fuck, and they'll be like, 21, and I was like, nah. Then you throw it back, you're like, meh, and then they come back, bah. Always negotiate that, because trust me, if you're new to the workforce as I was, it's so harder to to get raises in the field commutatively. Like, for instance, if I would have stayed at 20, and for me to get now to where I am, which is $26 an hour, because I negotiated the 24, like an extra $4 to my pay, it would have took me like 5 or 6 years just to get to, like, they literally every year, everyone at the hospital, you know how much money they get? Like a 50 cent raise a year. And that's mainly because of inflation. And if they're generous, your department may give you a $1 bump. If they're generous, every 2 to 3 years. If they're generous. And that's if they're generous. And that's from techs who've been in the game. Like, I have one tech who's been in the game 25 years, and he said that. He's like, yeah, bro, when you apply, you negotiate for the highest amount of money, because they will try to, it's so hard. And I was like, okay, that's the game plan. So, do that. You always want, because they will always lowball you, and it's ridiculous. Savages, they be. And I was like, oh, maybe, no, old jobs, it's just, business is business. It's almost like, what's the cheapest amount of money you'll do it for, and then you can get the job done type of deal. And it's crazy to think, like, and there's people who just accept that and don't know, and then they start talking really close to their peeps and their managers and stuff, and then they're like, oh, I make blank amount. When I tell you that I came in fresh out the boat, making more money than a tech who've been there 3 years, he almost quit. And they were like, oh, you can't talk about your pay, whatever the fuck. You legally you can. Like, ain't nothing gonna happen. They just don't want you to. It just, and you'd be like, oh, maybe you brought more set of skills than the person did. And I was like, no. I mean, besides me speaking Spanish, I was about to say more the workflow, like no. So that's why some people every couple of years job hunt, like job flip, to ask for negotiate for more money. So that could be something look into, because you can kind of scale up higher. I mean, I'm almost intended not to even do that with my position, because I've gotten a position that's so good that it was so many techs that I've gotten the privilege to work with, some who are retired, some who are entering it. They're like, Miguel, or even the PRNs who do it, he's like, I will drive an hour to come work here. I've been applying blank amount of years just to find a position open at this hospital because it's so good. I love this, I like that. He's like, there's so many shitty jobs out here that'll pay you less money to do more work. Or there's some that'll pay you a little bit less, but like it sucks so bad. He's like, this is a really, really, like you found a golden nugget. And I was like, it's hard for me to wrap that around when this is my only job I've had coming out of school, and I've landed a pretty goated job in my area. So, like, for me to be like, oh, well, I'm going to leave, and then I go out there, and then it just sucks, and then I'd be like, can I get my job back? It's probably going to be gone. So, kind of goated at this job. So, hope that gives you context of where you are in this field. You can do the math. About 40 hours, whatever, you can get the grand number, which with overtime, holiday work, and all that, you could add a few thousand more to that if you do the math. And then extra shifts or whenever shifted, you can make more money and stuff like that. And then if you hold double credentials like CT and Xray, you can negotiate for a larger pay and stuff like that. So the more letters you have onto your name, you are entitled to ask for more money because you're going to be pushing more buttons. So always hold your value in that. So, yeah. See ya on the next one.